I've spent the last 18 years of my existence dealing with electronic restoration in the field on a daily basis. And there's two things that I know. Number one, it is cost effective, but number two, it's got to be done right in order for that to be true. My name is Corey Matthews, and I work with FRSTeam all over the United States as a technical director of their electronic restoration unit. This video is going to give you a little more idea about how the electronic restoration process works and how we kind of go through it in our techniques to make sure that it's done right the first time, and always to make sure that it's cost effective. Because if it's not cost effective, there's no reason for you to call us. So the first thing is, why does it need to be cleaned? If we wipe off the outside of it, won't it be fine? Well, it'll look nice, but the reality is that it has to be cleaned on the inside itself. What happens is the dust and the particulates and smoke contamination, water contamination, moisture, anything that's in the air flying around during one of these losses is going to get inside the equipment, because they've got venting holes and fans and those types of things that generally will be brought down and laid down on the circuit board while the loss is happening. What you then have to do is you have to open these items up and clean the circuit boards off. Well, the most cost-effective way to do something like that, we use what's called an Odell machine. And for the most part, basically what happens is that we clean it the same way that they clean the circuit boards when they're doing manufacturing. The manufacturing process, at the very end of it, they generally take the circuit boards, put them through a cleaning process. It's almost like a car wash. A couple of different chemicals, deionized water, those types of things are going to be what makes the difference. So you have to clean the inside as well as the outside for that to work properly and for those things to be cleaned properly. That's the first part. So to talk a little bit more about cost effectiveness, let's take into consideration a computer. Regular computer, tower, notebook, whatever it might be. If this gets contaminated in a fire or water loss, people usually go, well, I can just go buy another one for $400 or $500. And that's absolutely true. You can. What happens, though, is that you buy the piece of hardware for pretty inexpensively. Then you're going to have to put the software on there that you had on the other one. So these are what we call soft costs. We're going to have to move data from one computer to the other. We're going to have to put any programs on that computer that were on the old computer, so we probably have to purchase those again. There may be newer versions, they may not match with the newer computer, those types of things. If it's a business, it may be proprietary software that they're going to have to find and put on, and some of those programs can go up into the thousands of dollars to have to replace that. You also have to configure it for the network, put the profiles on there. So as you can see, these soft costs that usually people don't think about are going to add up big time. So your $400 or $500 computer that was just hardware is now a $1,200 computer. Most of the time, these computers and these types of items can be cleaned for less than 40% of replacement cost. And we're talking about hardware only. We're not including software and all the rest of that stuff involved in it. So if the hardware is $400, it's probably going to cost somewhere in the neighborhood of about $150 to clean it. So that, on top of the soft costs, let's say the soft costs add up to $1,200, you're really cleaning it for 10% of what it would cost to replace that. And not only that, when it's restored properly and cleaned properly on the inside and the outside, nothing changes. There are no changes to the software, the data that was on there, the profile, the configuration, the network. They turn it back on and it works exactly like it did before. If you order a new piece of equipment, that's going to take time. So you would have to get the equipment in and then put the profile on, move the data, configure the network, put software on there that's not on there. So you get the idea. It gets to be pretty expensive, and it gets to be longer than you would want to be out, especially these days with your computer. So let's take a look at FRSTeam's process when it comes to electronic restoration. First thing we do is go out to the site, just like we would for clothing. We're going to take pictures of all the electronics, where they're sitting, to make sure that we knew what room they're in, to make sure that we also know what condition they're in, if there's any missing knobs or scratches or dents or anything like that that are pre-existing conditions. We're going to then take the items out of the house. When we get back to our facility, we do what's called a detailed inventory, which is make, model, serial number, and we'll also put some notes on there just in case there's a scratch on the left side, those types of things. That gets sent to you in a report that looks kind of like a spreadsheet. It's going to have replacement costs along with cleaning cost on it as well, so you can compare to make sure that it is cost effective to clean these items. Once we get through with the inventory and testing process, the items that have made it through the preliminary test are going to be moved on into cleaning. We're going to use the Odell machine if necessary, and that's called a level 3 clean. We have a 1, 2, and a 3, the 3 being the strongest. The Odell machine, again, works kind of like a car wash. We're going to use a couple of different chemicals that are safe for electronics. We're going to use deionized water to make sure there's no residue, there's no minerals left behind to be able to corrode those circuit boards. And we're going to wash and clean those items. We're then going to take those items, we put them in a dry room for a couple of days to make sure they're good and dry. And then at that point, we pull them out, we'll reassemble them, and we put them into what we call burn-in testing. So we're going to let them test and test them to their maximum capacities for a couple of days as well to make sure everything is working okay. We want them to get up to operating temperature and beyond to make sure that they're going to work for the homeowner. Generally, if they've been cleaned properly, they will live out their normal life and possibly even surpass it. So if you've got a piece of electronic equipment that has got a 7-year lifespan on it, it might go past that without a problem because now it's been cleaned in the middle of its life. It's not just collecting dust like it was before, which causes issues as well. If the items make it through the final testing phase, the burn-in testing phase, we're going to consider that piece restored. The next thing we're going to do with it is put it in QC, which QC is our way of sort of giving it the white glove test, polishing it up, making sure that it looks nice, packaging it for shipping or storage. We can also store these items for as long as the homeowner might need. That could be months, that could be a year. We've done even longer than that. But we can also deliver these items and set them up. That's one of the reasons we take the pictures at the beginning to see where these items were, is so we can put them back without having to bug the homeowner about where these items need to be placed. We simply ask them, would you like them where they used to be? They say yes. We take a look at the pictures. We set everything up exactly the way it was before. So if you've got a homeowner that's not tech savvy or doesn't want to put this stuff together, we can also accomplish that and do that for them as well. So what type of things are not worth restoring? Well, we take a look at the items that are in the house, depending upon their age, how much damage they've got to them. Those types of things are going to come into consideration. If we happen to find a TV or computer, something like that, that is stuck in a closet, and we do our preliminary tests on it, plug it in, and it doesn't power on, then we know that that piece of equipment is not going to be restored because it wasn't damaged due to loss. If something is too old CRT TVs, those kind of big tube TVs that we used to have, those types of things, we're probably not going to restore those because, again, due to age, it's not really cost effective to do those types of things. We do take into consideration all kinds of other aspects, and our database has built into it sort of an alarm. So if we put something in like a 42-inch CRT TV, it's going to pop up and say, this is probably not going to be cost effective, so double check to make sure you want to clean this item. That automatically happens with our process and the database that we use. So that's the basics of how we run our electronics restoration operation. We're going to make sure that it's cost effective. We're also going to make sure that those items that are cleaned properly the first time so that there's no bugs that happen later on for the homeowner and you don't get a call from them. There are plenty more items that we could go to for restoration, and we will be making some more videos for electronic restoration. But in the meantime, if you have any questions from FRSTeam, you can give us a call, and we will be more than happy to answer your questions. If you've got some claims that you're working on, you want to know what would work best, our job is to make it cost effective. And we watch that very carefully with detailed replacement costs and also cleaning costs that you can compare yourself on these reports to make sure that it is cost effective for you guys. Because like I said at the beginning, if we're not cost effective for you, there's no reason for you to call us. So our job is to make sure that that happens. Thanks.